Okay, so my name is Kojoata and welcome to another episode on my channel. Today I'm here at the Assin Manso Slave River, and here we are going to continue the slave story. This is where the slave story actually starts. After they take all the slaves from wherever they took them, they bring them here to have their last bath because if you take them to the castle, they will never bath before. They will take all their sweaty body and everything to the castle from here. So they take their last bath here and they are taken to the various castles where they will be sent to Europe and other places. So continue with me. Let's enter and tell the story. Let's go and see what happens here. Let's go. Region of Ghana, Assin Manso Slave Market, and the Ancestral River Park. My name is Kofi Amini, and I'm going to be your guide. But before we start with the tour, we'll be observing a minute of silence for all our brothers and sisters who lost their lives during the trade, on the Middle Passage, through segregation, through discrimination, after which I would say that may their souls rest in perfect peace. And all of us here will respond by saying Ashe. Ashe basically means may it come to pass. So please, if you don't mind, can we all observe a minute of silence? Thank you. May the souls of our ancestors rest in perfect peace. Ashe. So, Assin Manso is a very interesting place if you really want to learn about the transatlantic slave trade. It started as a community without a name. It was established in 1555 as a Portuguese settlement. In the 1600s, the slave trade became the business of the day. So the Portuguese changed this area of their settlement and they turned it into a slave market. Whereas it became the market, Assin Manso became the busiest market in West Africa during the era of the transatlantic slave trade. According to one historian, in the person of Professor Akosua Adoma Pebi, in a book entitled The History of the Indigenous Slavery in Ghana, from the 15th century to the 19th century, A Cry and Lamentation of Our Ancestors, Chronicles of African Untold Stories by Alex Afo. All these historians made mention that Ghana had 63 slave markets. Salaga, Piccolo, Bonomanso, Techima, and Jene. And of all these markets, they made mention of two markets that played the most important role. They spoke about the largest and they spoke about the busiest market. The largest market could be found at the northern part of the country, and the name was Salaga Slave Market. The second largest market, which became the busiest, was Assin Manso. So captives, mostly prisoners of war, have to walk in chains and shackles, barefooted and half naked with no food and no water. It took them over 700 miles journey, making it 5 months of a journey just to get to Assin Manso. Many of the forebearers died. Many died in the interior. But those that died in the interior, we cannot even account for them. We don't even know whether they died a natural death or whether they were fed on for the animals to feed on. But all that we can say is may their souls rest in perfect peace. Sweet. Now, when they landed here at Assin Manso, because this was the market, and the market have a river that flows through it, then the captives have to be cleaned before taken to the river. So their ages were first determined by using a device called a speculum oris. The device is put into their mouth, open their mouth, count their teeth in forecasting their ages. Broken bottles was used in shaving them, just for them to look attractive, before they were made to walk all the way to the river to take their last bath. At the riverside, they went through their auction and they went through their branding. But those that could not survive, those that were killed, are those that remained on this land. They were killed and buried from the edge of the grass all the way to the river. So everywhere here served as a burial site. That was how when you were coming through the main gate, the gate looked very short. So almost all of you came through like this. Yes, unconsciously, you've already paid your respect to the land. But there are some group that also escaped. But those that escaped, they cannot be walking around their communities because they can be recaptured. So they moved and they hid in a cave. And they named the place Yabuano. Yabuano means we have gathered. So they stayed in the cave over 10 more years after the abolishment of the slave trade. So after that 10 years, they moved away from the cave and they settled in these communities. But the community doesn't have a name. So how do they name this community? That is why the community was named Assin Manso. Assin means persons in transit, people that are just passing through. And Manso, the capital. So Assin Manso is the capital for the persons in transit. After the last bath, the enslaved Africans were made to walk all the way to the dungeons, Cape Coast, Elmina, and Fort Amsterdam, just for them to await the slave ship. So they stayed in the dungeons for 3 months. They were just awaiting the return of the slave ship. In 3 months' time, the slave ship arrived. And before your ancestors were made to go onto the ship, they have to go through a particular door. And the name on this door is the door of no return. When you go through that door, you're never going to come back again. But today, that door of no return has been changed to the door of return. Because words are very powerful. But how would you change the door of no return and make it the door of return? We have to bring 2 of the remains of our ancestors back home. They have to re-enter the country through the same door for that door to be changed. And those 2 of our ancestors that we had are those that you could see in the graveyard. We have Madam Crystal from Kingston, Jamaica. We have Samuel Carson from New York, US of A. So Madam Crystal was a young, beautiful lady who was captured by landed in Jamaica as an enslaved African. But she never saw herself as a slave. She rather preferred to die than to be called a slave. She was the first female who had a teeth chiseled out because she was rebelling by starving herself to death. The pains that she endured was so much. In 1830, she lost her life. And according to historians, when she was about to pass on, this was the only thing she said: "Bring me back home someday." I am not sure she knew she would, but somewhere, somehow, here she is. In the middle is Samuel Carson, the first African-American without any formal education. Landed in the U.S. Navy, served with all his strength and might, died at the age of 35 years, but he wasn't given a befitting burial. So on the 31st day of July 1998, the 2 remains have to re-enter the country through the door of no return. Immediately they came out from that door, the name was changed to the door of return. The following day, being the 1st of August, the 2 were buried here. And that is why this community celebrates Emancipation Festival every 1st of August. The 3rd tomb was brought in here recently during the year of return celebration by the Prime Minister of Barbados. It was basically remains that were picked from most slave cemeteries from Newton, Barbados. And all the bones that she had, she brought them in here just for them to have a peaceful rest. So let's make a short walk. We are walking to the river, but we'll be using the ancestral path. You see, the path that you see here was developed by the feet of the captives. Before they could get to the river, this was the path that they used. It has been there for over 400 years. We don't even deserve to see or walk or even walk on it because we don't even respect the energies of our ancestors any longer. Today, when you mention names of your ancestors, people say it's evil. And those same people that fought for us, we have neglected them. That is why, for me, Kofi, as a traditionalist, I always prefer to walk on this path with my shoes off in order for me to be grounded and in order for me to connect to our forebears. So many of the diasporans, when they come over, they would also prefer to walk through this path with their shoes off, just for them to connect to the energies of the land. We just have a 3-minute walk, and we're going to get to the river. So let's make a short walk. Slave River. If you had come in our peak season in terms of rainfall, all this place will be flooded. There are two separate rivers in here. The left-hand side is different from the right-hand side. That river is getting its source from the Pra River, and the name is Ama Emisa. The right one. And it's very rocky in nature, so there's more rocks in there. So when the captives were first using that, they committed suicide by eating their heads against the rocks.
They intentionally killed themselves.
Because they prefer to die than to go through that pain. So the raiders also decided, no, if all of you be dying in this river, why don't you use this instead? Because this river was very stagnant, gentle, it doesn't move. And it's also very sandy. So they delegated one enslaved person to the river. And he uses the bamboo leaves, mix it with the river sand, and he uses it to scratch on the skin of the captives. Many people died in this river. Many also survived. But those that couldn't survive and they were trying to escape, they were shot dead, and all this site is what we call the bamboo cemetery. After taking their last bath, they come to where we are now for their auction and they are branded. Our ancestors were bought with things that are really not important. Things like used clothes, tobacco, guns, gunpowder, and what have you.
You mentioned the name of this one as
Ama Emisa.
But you didn't mention this one.
The name of this is Non-Konsu, the Slave River. Okay. And it's getting its source from the township.
This is from the township.
Yes.
And this is from the
Pra River, yes. So the reason why, so the continued using of this river gave it the name, the Slave River. So if you could see from the river, you could see that the colors are even different. Yes, it's yes, it's because it's just raining here. So yes, but that is a river. So it was in here that they took their last bath and also went through their auction and branded. But today, coming to Assin Manso for the diasporans have changed. We have moved away from the last bath of our ancestors to the first bath of return. The first bath of return are for those of our ancestors or our African diasporans who are coming back home. When they come to the rivers of their ancestors, they need to be accepted. They need to be grounded and connected. So there's a litany of rituals that they have to go through whenever they visit this place. But they cannot use this river because that is the river of their ancestors. So this is the male energy and that is the female energy. So when they come back, they go to the female energy with all their messages, and later the female energy would have a way of connecting to the male energy.
So if I'm getting you correct, this is the male, the one that
the Non-Konsu is the male and the Ama Emisa is the female.
The female.
Yes.
So the foreigners will convey their message to this.
Yes.
Okay.
But not to that, because with this, there's so much pain in there already.
Okay.
And whenever he sees a children coming back, that pain is small in him. So he prefers you to see the wife, and the wife will come and tell him, this is what your kid said. So it has become more of a spiritual something that we do in there. So when we get to the river, there are so many things that we do. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to end. But it depends on your spiritual connectivity. When you get in there, sometimes it even speaks to you for you to do whatever could be done. So sometimes when I get in here, I feel like I want to do something, but I have to reserve my energy.
Ama and it's a female river. So when our brothers from the diaspora come, they also come to this river to convey their message, like the tour guide said earlier on. And I wish you also come here and experience it, because this is very highly spiritual. I feel well connected to my ancestors just standing in this water, and it's a very nice experience. So you also need to come here.
Okay, so basically this is a cannonball and a chain that was found in the river in 2005 by an African-American group that came to visit the site. So whilst they were in the river praying, one of the females among them found it. She put it out from the river, and what came out was a cannonball connected to a chain. This was the exact cannonball that was used on the captives when they were made to walk for over 700 miles. It is here as an evidence that something like that sort happened in the past.
They tie this to somebody,
yes,
so that the person will be walking.
Yes, so that it limits the pace at which you go. And this has been here for over 30 years now, but you could see it's almost like 200 years now. Yes, and she left it to us, and we always say that may it never happen again. So with this last information, I'll bring the thought to an end. I would just say, just enjoy life. Chill, but make sure you don't freeze.
Okay, so the tour has come to an end, and unfortunately, this wasn't a very happy tour for me. It has been a very sad tour on this one. Listening to the stories of our ancestors, how they were treated in this place and all that, doesn't give a very nice picture. So I don't have much to say. All I can say is that I want you to also come here and also experience the place and how our ancestors were treated. We all pray that this sad thing that happened here years ago will never happen again. And we also pray that as time goes on, our ancestors will also keep protecting us and guiding us. So the story of our slave trade, or the history of the slave trade, continues. This is just an episode of the whole thing. The story keeps continuing. So my name is Kojoata. I'm signing out. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, comment, and also share your experience in case you've been here. I'm signing out.